If he wanted to, he would. This is a pervasive piece of advice that is going around, particularly in the dating and relationship space. But I think it's a little bit more complicated than it sounds on the surface. And so, in some ways, it can actually be blocking us from building something deeper. So, I want to share a personal story as well as delve into this concept of if they wanted to, they would, to go a little bit deeper, both to better understand the people in our lives and to better understand ourselves. My name is Trisha Veldman. I am a confidence coach and spoken word poetess. You can find more about me at powerfulandpoised.com. So, the intention behind this narrative, if he wanted to, he would, I think was really born out of helping particularly women not wait around for someone, particularly a man. So, women waiting around for men who have potential to do things but aren't doing them. And so, in that sense, it is very effective, very helpful advice to say actions speak louder than words. But I prefer thinking of it as actions speak louder than words more than if he wanted to, he would. Because it's not always about someone's desire. Someone can really want to do something, but feel blocked for whatever reason. And that's what I want to talk about today. So think about in your life the number of times you have wanted to do something, but didn't because you were afraid, because you were nervous, because you didn't have the skills, because you didn't have the time. It's not that you didn't want to do it, you just didn't do it. Now, all of this came to mind because I was talking to this guy, and he was so fascinated by this woman. And the woman actually approached him and gave him her phone number, and he was really, really excited and interested in her. But he never reached out. And I asked why, and he's like, I don't know what to say. I'm just so nervous. And he has social anxiety to a degree that's preventing him from reaching out. Meanwhile, I'm sure this woman is sitting there thinking, like, he doesn't like me, he must have a girlfriend, or he's not interested, probably coming up with a whole bunch of reasons in her mind about why she's not good enough or why he didn't choose her. And maybe saying something like, if he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to text me, he would. But when you see it from both angles and you realize we don't ever really know what's going through someone's mind. On his end, he's like, I really, really want to, but he doesn't feel like he has the capacity or the capability to do so. Now, this is not an excuse to say if someone's not showing up the way that you need them to just say, oh, well, they can't do it. Poor guy has anxiety, so I'll let that slide. In this case, it doesn't matter if he wants to or not, he's not doing it. And so her evidence is the actual behavior. And if she needs him to behave a certain way, like in this case, she needs him to reach out, and he's not doing that, it really doesn't matter if he wants to or not. He's not showing up the way that she needs. And so she can move forward. It feels probably icky not having that sense of closure, not having a conversation. And so I would encourage the guy to have a conversation with her and just let her know what's going through his mind. But at the end of the day, even if she decides to extend compassion towards him and recognize, like, oh, he really wants to reach out, but he's so nervous, he's probably still not going to give her what she needs. So this is not about making excuses for someone, but it is about extending compassion and recognizing that we don't know what someone's experience is. And so I think, especially in modern dating, both men and women have become very harsh towards one another. And it's kind of like these very strict lines of like, oh, well, you did this, that means this. And if he wanted to, he would. But let's think about it as if he wanted to, or she, if they wanted to and had the capacity for it, they would. They could really want to, but have a block. And so when we extend that compassion, I feel like it makes the whole experience a little bit better, because telling ourselves, oh, well, he just doesn't want to, he just doesn't like me, feels bad when we make it mean something about ourselves. But what if the guy really wants to give you everything that you're asking for, but he's not sure how to manage his time? Or he's really stressed at work. Maybe he really wants to give you those things, but he doesn't have the skills to manage his time effectively to do that right now. So I think there's a world where we can find a balance between extending compassion and saying, okay, do you want to do this? Are you willing to work at developing the skills it takes to do this? And then if they say no to that, that's where we can draw the line, set the boundary, walk away, whatever. But I think sometimes we're a little premature to do that. And we say, okay, action didn't happen. Actions speak louder than words. Bye. Instead of having a conversation to get to the root cause. Because what if, for example, if the guy is not giving you, and again, I'm just using men and women as examples here, but think about any relationship in your life where this is relevant. If the person is not giving you what you need, have a conversation and get to the root of why they're not giving you what you need. And maybe it's something as simple as learning a few skills that would help them be able to do the thing. And then calibrating expectations. So for example, if you're a woman in a relationship with a man and you're wanting the man to dedicate more time to you and he's feeling super stressed and overwhelmed with work, maybe the solution is that he hires someone to help him take some of the workload off so he physically has more time to spend with you. Sometimes it's a little more nuanced. So for example, maybe you have a desire for someone to ask you more interesting, deeper questions and make deeper, more meaningful conversation, but they don't have those relationship skills. So I think about this with my dad sometimes. Like, I know he means well, I know he cares about me, but it's not in his nature to just say like, oh, how did that thing go? Oh, how are you feeling? And to check in on me very much the way, for example, my mom would. Because women are different with relationship skills. And my dad just isn't as developed with his relationship skills. And that's okay. That's something that I can recognize and understand about him. But it is also up to me to calibrate my expectations and not just say, well, if he wanted to know how I was, he would. If it really, really mattered to me and I expressed to him, this really matters to me, it wouldn't be him increasing his desire to relate to me differently. It would be him needing to work on the skills that it would take. So those are separate things. It's not saying I want to make him want to do this. It's he needs to learn how to do this. But he's not going to learn how to do it unless I express that that's what I need. And I probably would need to make it very clear. Now, in this case, I just know that's how he is. And so I've accepted that, and I have to calibrate my expectations. Same thing in relationship. Instead of just discounting someone as if he wanted to, he would, have a conversation saying, do you want to, first of all? And what skills would you need to be able to do that? Are you willing to invest in learning those skills and developing that capacity and that capability? And if not, you can either calibrate your expectations to not expect him to be able to do something he doesn't feel capable of doing, or walk away if that's what you need to do. But in the case of the guy that I mentioned at the beginning that really, really is enamored by this woman but feels really socially anxious and too nervous to reach out to her, it's not, again, that he doesn't want to, it's that he feels like he can't. Now, the argument would be, if he really wanted to, he would learn how. But sometimes people don't realize that there's something to learn. And so that's where open communication can be very helpful. So if this guy really, really is interested in the woman, I would hope he would take the initiative to overcome his social anxiety, talk to a therapist, do some public speaking coaching or whatever, develop his social skills to be able to do the thing he wants to do and make that a reality. But we just have to remember people aren't always going to realize that that's what's blocking them. And sometimes the thing blocking them is obvious and it's like, oh, well, I'm nervous. I need to learn how to not be nervous. Or it's really, really hard to notice, hard to pinpoint, and it might be a blind spot. Like, I'm sure my dad has no idea. He doesn't relate the way that I do or the way that I want because I haven't expressed it in a way that would help him actually develop the skills. I may get frustrated with him from time to time, but that's not me saying, hey, if you really care about our relationship, I'm going to need you to take an emotional intelligence course. Because I'm not going to ask him to do that. And he probably wouldn't anyway. So again, that's my choice to calibrate my own expectations. And think about this in your own life. How many times have you said, I want to do that, but you haven't done it yet? So for me, I always say, like, I want to write a book. And yes, I've published a poetry book and I've got another one on the way, but I've always wanted to write like a novel or a self-help book, but I haven't. And it's not because I don't want to. And sometimes I shame myself, like, oh, if I really wanted it that badly, I just would. But as you know, just as well as I do, you can want to do something and not do it for a variety of reasons. I would probably benefit from having some structure, having some training on how to actually write a book. It's not that I don't want to. It's that there are certain skills, like the discipline, the focus, the systems, the structure, that I don't necessarily have right now. So when we reframe it as desire versus capacity and capability, then it, I believe, does help us exercise more compassion for the person and give them room to grow. Again, not in a way that's excusing their behavior, because at the end of the day, actions do speak louder than words. And this is also where things can get really important when you're determining whether to stay in a relationship or leave. If someone tells you, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this for you, and they're not doing it, then at some point they have to be willing to invest in the skills and develop the capacity to be able to do it. And if they're not willing to do that, then it's a different discussion. And then maybe it's time to close the door. But my point of all of this is to encourage everyone, myself included, to be patient with people. And instead of so quickly writing someone off as, well, if they wanted to, they would, saying it's not necessarily if you want to do the thing, you would. It's if you want to do the thing, you would learn to become the person who is capable of doing the thing. If you want to do it, you will learn to become the person who can do it. And that, I think, is what they mean when they say, if you want it badly enough, you will make it happen. But sometimes it's hard to spot the little things that we don't know that would help make it happen. So in the context of relationships, we can help the other person know what they don't know. Especially thinking about men, they don't know what's going through our mind as women. And again, men relate differently than women do. Women's relationship centers of the brain are far more developed. Did you know, fun fact, I learned this in grad school, women have 8 communication centers in the brain. Men have 1. And so this is not an excuse, but this is just to say, the more expressive and explicit women can be with men about what they need and how they can get it, then I think the more opportunities men have to actually understand what the woman wants and can develop the skills to give her what she wants. So, all of this is to say, it's not so simple to say if he wanted to, he would. And so I encourage you in your own life and in your relationships to exercise some compassion. Noticing actions do speak louder than words, but try to go a little deeper. Try to break it down a bit so it's not just doing the behavior, but it's becoming the kind of person who is capable of doing the behavior. I hope all of this makes sense. I would love to hear in the comments what you think about this, and if you think it's totally bogus and you're like, no, at the end of the day, if they want to, they'll figure it out, because that's an argument for it too. Like the socially anxious guy, if he really is into that woman, he will figure out how to talk to her and how to get over his shyness. And I think when someone's really, really in love, they do that. But if you're in a relationship and the person isn't doing that, I think it's still worth taking a step back, going a layer deeper, and figuring out what the root cause is before we jump to conclusions like, oh, they just don't love me enough. Too bad. It's like maybe they really, really, really do love you, but there's something going on internally that's blocking them from developing the skill to do the thing. I hope that was helpful. I hope it got your gears turning and that you're thinking about how this relates to your own life. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought, and stay tuned for the next video.